Hey guys, it's Rowena and welcome back to Rowena's Hovel. This week, we're going to talk about your altar. Now, some of you may have an altar, some of you may not have an altar, some of you may be like me and just have shelves on the wall. Whatever works for you, works for you. So that's how we're going to start this one. We're going to start it as, do you have to have an altar? Is it necessary to have an altar? And then we're going to move into what you can have on your altar. So, the first thing we're going to talk about, do you have to have an altar? You absolutely do not have to have an altar. It's not necessary. It's good to have. It gives you somewhere to work your spells, work your rituals, somewhere solid to sit and do whatever your craft is. So it is nice to have one, but it's not necessary to have one. Now, what is your altar? So your altar is going to be a place where you place all of your important witchy items. So, talking to several people, because I did my looking, because I don't really have an altar. I have shelves with all of my things that I use regularly on there. Your altar or altars, there are several people that have more than one, are set up how you want to set them up. So I know people who work with their ancestors that have an altar dedicated to just their ancestors. They have pictures of the people that they talk to, work with. They have offerings for them that sit on that altar. And then they have another altar for their deity that they work with, be it whatever deity you choose. I know not Freya, but Freya is a deity that you can work with. I cannot, off the top of my head, think of the one that I'm thinking of. But you can work with any deity. The thing with working with deities is make sure you know what deity you're working with and what deity that one deity does not work well with. Because you don't want to work with two deities that are going to clash. It's not going to work out. It's not going to be pretty. So make sure you know all of your deities and know that they work well with each other. And make sure if you are crossing the lines from culture, like if you work with a Roman, a Greek, and an Egyptian deity, make sure they all work well together. You can stay within the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians. You can move across them. The big thing is make sure they all work well together. Make sure you're not going to have any clashings. And make sure that deity wants you to work with them. You can do a lot of deity work. And possibly we'll talk about that in another episode. Because that's not something I am 100% familiar with. Because I have a deity, but don't have a deity. It's a whole complicated situation. So we'll talk about that in another episode. And then, so they have a ancestor altar, they have a deity altar, and then they also have a working altar. Hold on. Rewind. The deity altar. On that altar, you are going to place, you can have your offerings for your deity, statues of your deity, statues or pieces that represent your deity, candles, things like that for that specific deity that you work with. Now, then most of them have a third altar which they use as their working altar. This is where they place things like their wand, their thame, their herbs, their crystals, things like that. And that's going to be the place where you do most of your workings, where you do your rituals, unless it has to do with the deity or an ancestor, where you create your spell jars, things of that nature. So this one is possibly going to be your most changing if you have all three, This one's going to be your most changing altar. This one's going to change with the seasons, change with the Sabbaths, change with what you're vibing with, things like that. So it's a whole big thing. And you can choose to put on there whatever it is you want to put on there. So if you feel really drawn to this one specific unicorn, and you think that the universe threw this unicorn in your face and it means something to you, by all means put that on your altar. So when it comes to what goes on your altar, make sure you do not put any of your mundane items on your altar. So your altar is not a place to put your keys. It's not a place to put your necklace. It's not a place to put your earrings unless those are to be charged. If you have a crystal necklace and you're throwing it on your altar to charge it, then you can do that. But you don't just want to throw your phone, your keys, the dog leash, anything like that. You don't want to throw that on your altar because it kind of lessens your altar, if that makes any sense. So you want to make sure your altar or altars are somewhere where you're not just going to chuck items onto them. Alright, so what can you put on your altar? Well, I'm going to tell you. Does it mean something to you? Do you feel like the universe threw this item at you? You can put it on your altar. Okay, so one of the things that you can have on your altar, and I don't have an example of it because, like I said, I don't really have an altar to put one on, but an altar cloth. That is going to be something that you cover the table that you use for your altar. Again, all of these items we're going to talk about, you can have. They're not necessary that you do have them. I have lots of parts and pieces, and I will show all the examples that I have, but make sure you know it is not necessary for you to have all of these items. It does not make you less of a witch because you don't have them. These are just suggestions and thoughts as you slowly start putting your altar together. So this is going to be what you use to cover your table. If you prefer to have shelves because you have an asshole cat or you have a dog that wants to get into everything, or a toddler whose hands move faster than their mouth, you can use shelves. Shelves work perfectly fine. You can also use an altar cloth on these shelves. It may not be laid out to cover all of your shelves if you have more than one, but it can be used as a decoration to hang across the front of your shelves, to hang across the back of your shelves, whichever you would like to use. So the next thing that you can have on your altar, now I'm not going in any specific order. Now, of course, some of these you'll need to have before you can have the next, but just ideas. So another thing you can have on your altar is going to be your spell jars. These are going to be any jars that you create that you're using to help better yourself and everything like that. Now these spell jars, you can find a recipe for most spell jars online. You can create your own by doing your own research on crystals and herbs and other things like that. You can also buy them. You can buy them pre-made for you, which is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with doing that. And here, I'm going to make sure you like and subscribe to follow my channel, know when I put new videos up. Also, if you check the link in the description below, I also have an Etsy shop where you can purchase some pre-made spell jars. If you buy them, it's completely up to you. So, alright. So, What else can you have on your altar? So a lot of people will pick, excuse me, crystals. You can have all kinds of crystals on your altar. You can have obelisks, you can have coins, you can have palm stones, you can have raw crystals, whatever makes you happy. If you have a crystal that speaks to you, that you walk into a store and you go, holy shit, I need that, you probably should buy it. Because chances are the next time you go to that store to buy it, when you're like, no, I can come back for it. No, it's already gone. Promise, it's gone. So the crystals that you put on your altar are going to be crystals that you feel connected to, crystals that you use in your spell work, crystals that you need for a ritual. So if you need a bloodstone for a ritual, and you want to make sure it's sitting on your altar before you do that ritual to kind of make sure the vibes work with you, please be sure set that on your altar. If you have a couple of points that are bigger that you just love fucking looking at, put them bitches on your altar. Did you go to the lake yesterday and find a super adorable hagstone? Put that bitch on your altar. I'm telling you, your altar is all about you. Again, witchcraft is a you do you boo vibe. So if it makes you happy, do it. So another thing you can do if you are going to have separate altars or you are going to work specifically with your ancestors, you can always have photos of your ancestors on your altar. So you can have pictures of great-great-grandma Jane and great-great-grandpa Sam that you feel super connected to on your altar. With that, you can have offerings that go to them, but we'll get there. But you can have pictures of your ancestors on your altars. I don't really work with my ancestors, so I don't have any pictures of my ancestors on any of my shelves. Another thing you can do is have a deity statue or a deity painting. Now, these deity statues can be store-bought, they can be handmade, they can be 2D, they can be 3D, they can be half D. It doesn't matter. If you work with Anubis and you find a super cute painting of Anubis that you prefer over any statue you've seen, you can put that on your altar. These are going to be items or visuals that help you connect with that deity that you choose to work with. Another thing you can have on your altar is an athame. What the fuck is that? It is spelled Athame. It is an athame, a thame. Everybody says it different. I call it an athame. This is your ritual knife. Ritual knife. Now, this is used for cutting in and out of circle. Cutting in and out of circle. Not cutting open a bag of chips. Not slicing your hand open for blood magic, although if that's something you do, I think you can use this for that. I am not totally sure. I don't do blood magic. This is for cutting in and out of your circle. This is for rituals that have to do with cutting ties, cutting cords, breaking apart things. This is not something you use to open the letter that Grandma Joe just sent you in the mail. This is for ritual uses only. So please do not use it for any mundane purpose. Once you consecrate your athame, it is to be used for magical purposes only. Alright. So, say you don't feel comfortable having an athame in the house. Don't feel comfortable. It's too close to a weapon. Your kids are sketchy. Your significant other's sketchy. I don't know. You just don't want to have one. You haven't found one you connected with. We can go with that too. Another way you can cut yourself in and out of your circle is your wand. This is also something that can sit on your altar. Yes, Harry Potter style wands. I wouldn't use one from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter or anything like that. Although if you connect with it, you connect with it. It is what it is. This one's mine. Mine is handmade, unfinished. I love it to death. It fits in my hand nice. But this can also be used to cut yourself in and out of your circle. What can you use for a wand? So your wand, like I said, I wouldn't use anything from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, although, again, if you connect with it and it feels right to you, then it feels right. You can buy one. Etsy is always a good place to buy one. You can make one. You could literally walk outside your door, go on a nice little nature walk, and pick up a stick and go, oh my god, this is my motherfucking wand. And congratulations, you found a wand. If you do hand make it, it doesn't have to have intricate details. It doesn't have to have inlaid crystals. It doesn't have to be anything like that unless that's what you want. If that's what you want, do it to it, sister or brother, whichever way you go. It can be plain. It can be simple. Mine has absolutely no extra added detail. None. And that's exactly how I wanted it. My husband made it for me. I love it. If you are looking for something close to this, you can always hit us up on Facebook, hit me up on Instagram, shoot me a message on Etsy, whatever have you. Shoot me a message on here. We can probably work something out for you. Alright, so what else can you have on your altar? I'm going to go into a few things that I have on mine in this category. We'll have a whole nother episode on this. And that is your divination tools. So that is going to be tarot cards, oracle cards, pendulums, runes, witches' runes, your teacup you use for tea leaf readings. There's a word for that, for tea leaf readings. I can't think of it off the top of my head. I have, actually on my shelf, I have 4 decks of tarot cards and a deck of oracle cards. The rest of them are sitting on my dresser because they're too big to fit on a shelf. But I have my tarot cards up there, as well as my pendulum, my super pretty, hard to tell, but rose quartz pendulum. And then I also have my pendulum mat. Now, I don't have a pendulum board. I have a handmade mat that I made myself. Also available on Etsy. Just saying. But I use this when I do my pendulum readings, which I don't do very often because, again, I'm a tarot card person. But I wanted to try and get into some other divinations, using other divinations. But this can also include a scrying mirror if you do scrying. I don't, so I don't have a scrying mirror. What else? So, next thing you can have is your herbs. And you can have them in the jars that they come in from the store. You can buy cute little mason jars and label them. I currently have most of mine in cute little mason jars labeled. Now, they're not on my altar. They are in a basket in my workspace because I use them for my work. Now, these are going to be herbs that you use all the time, herbs that you want to use for a ritual, herbs that you want to use for a spell jar, herbs that you want to burn during a ritual of some sort. You get the point. If you are an herb witch, if you're a green witch and you have herbs out the ass, this may be one of your storage areas for that. By all means, if it works for you, it works for you. Another thing you can have is water. Not just any water. This is moon water. I also have a jar of snow water from the first big snow we had here. But you can have your moon water. Now, this is water that is charged under the moon. Duh, moon water. Pretty self-explanatory. Put it in a jar, put it out in moonlight, charged. Boom, moon water. You can use this for rituals. You can use this for spells. You can use it for your next self-care bath that you want to do, where you're going to throw your lavender and your chamomile and your rose petals into your tub and throw some sea salt in there to have a little razzle dazzle. You can throw your moon water in there too. It's good for just about anything as well. Another thing you can use it for is to cleanse your crystals, cleanse your divination tools. Again, the crystals, make sure you know what you have. Anytime I mention crystals and I mention cleansing them, I'm always going to say this. Remember what you have. Know what you have. Know if it is going to be damaged by water. Don't do it. So, another thing you can have, if you use mala beads, meditation beads, whichever way you know them as, rosary beads for the Catholic, ex-Catholic, Christian witches. Rosary beads are the same thing. They are a string of beads used to help keep your mind in meditation mode. Use it if you have a specific mantra you say you can count how many you need to say it. You can use those, and then when you're done, you can set them on your altar as a safe, secure place for them to sit. Another thing, this one's going to be fun. Candles. Candles. If you use candles, which most of us do, you can leave them on your altar. What kind of candles? All kinds of candles. Big 3-day candles, little taper candles, little 3-day or tea light candles, candles. The big thing is, do not leave your candles burning unattended. Don't set your house on fire, for the love of God, or whatever God you work with. Don't set your house on fire. Candles. Candle colors make a difference. And what you're doing, we'll do an episode on candle colors eventually. White is basic candle. This is going to be your fill-in for any candle color. Always have white candles around. I think I have like 4 of these big 3-day candles that are white. So most of your 3-day candles you can buy in most colors, most all colors. If you are using it for something that is going to take a long time to do, or you are burning it over a long period of time, say you have a ritual that needs to be done every day for a week, use a big candle. This way you don't have to try and hunt down little candles. And then you have little chime candles. These are pretty basic candles, pretty basic candle colors. Colors of the rainbow, plus a few. And again, all the candles have a meaning. If you're not sure, use white. Your tea light candles, obviously tea light candles, most of them come in one color. You can find them in different colors. You can order them special order from somewhere with different colors. You can buy colored ones that smell. Say you live in a house where witchcraft really is frowned upon, or you're not comfortable coming out of the broom closet just yet with whoever you live with, and these look super suspicious, or having one of these big bad boys look super suspicious, Yankee Candles. Yankee Candles have colors. Yankee Candles also smell pretty. Little less suspicious. Now, of course, with Chime Candles, make sure you have a little candle holder that they fit in. You can't really see that because it's black. I'm wearing black. My background's kind of black. I like black. Make sure you have a candle holder that they sit in. Again, don't set your house on fire. Be smart about it. Another thing, and this one's going to be very specific to whoever you talk to, and everybody is going to have a different take on it, is going to be incense. I'm going to try and cover up the label so I don't get in trouble for nothing crazy like that. Incense. Most of the time, if you put incense on your altar, to leave it on your altar, please be sure that it is specifically for what you're using it for. So if you use white sage incense only for rituals and things like that, then you can put it on your altar. I burn white sage incense all the goddamn time. It's not something I would put on my altar. To be honest, I would never put incense on my altar because I burn all of my incense all the time. I love incense. Again, with the incense, make sure you have an incense burner. It can be a long flat burner like this. I also have a circle plate in my living room that I use in there. That it has the stick hole in the dead center of the pinnacle. Make sure you have one of these. You can get them for fairly cheap. You can get them at like Five Below. I don't know that the Dollar Tree sells them anymore. I don't know if the Dollar Tree sells them. You might be able to get them at Walmart. Might be able to get them at like Myers, any of your big stores. If not, hop online. You can always order shit from Amazon. If not, or you don't like any of them, you want a pretty circular resin one like this, and you want it specific colors, because I know this one's actually like a purplish blue to me, and I know you're probably only seeing the blue. If you want something more like this, hit me up. We do make these. Of course, they're not free for charge, but we do make them. We can personalize one for you. Let's see. Another thing you can always have on your altar is, let me get my jar open, is your sage bundles, if you use sage. Again, listen. White sage is not a closed practice. If you are sketchy about using it, don't use it. Palo Santo, same thing. It is not technically a closed practice. The closed practice in that is the word smudging. You are not allowed to smudge unless you are an indigenous person. And the indigenous people ask that if you use white sage or Palo Santo, that you make sure it is ethnically sourced. But I'm trying to figure out what all these are. But you can have your jar of sage, lavender, whatever it is that you burn. You can leave that. Make sure that you have somewhere to put it out, be it a bowl or whatever have you. Make sure that it is completely out before you leave it alone. To go along with your herbs, another thing that might be useful on your altar is a mortar and pestle to grind your herbs. This is the best way to break up your herbs for burning them loose. which you can do under the proper circumstances. You can get them for pretty cheap. This little one was like $17. It fits in the palm of my hand. Look, it's so tiny. I did just upgrade mine though. I got a bigger one. Another thing you can have is going to be a cauldron. Again, man, I wear so much black, guys. Listen, let me. There we go. Cauldron. They make them in all different sizes. I have an itty bitty one that the top is a little bit like yay big. And this can be used to burn. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to show you without making a disaster. But like I have sand in the bottom of mine in order to make sure not to ruin the cauldron itself. And then I have a charcoal disc in the middle. Light it on fire. Sprinkle your herbs and everything on there. It should last longer, give you a very, very, very much stronger smell than you would get out of an incense or an essential oil. The last two things is books. Books. If it is important to your craft and you read it and you feel like it is going to be a reference that you are going to come back to over and over and over again, if you want to put it on your altar, put it on your altar. It's totally fine. Now, another thing that and this is going to be the last one we cover today, another thing that a lot of witches are going to have on their altar is going to be their Book of Shadows or their grimoire. Yeah, that sounds right. The difference, your Book of Shadows, and I'm going to give you this because this is how I learned it, which is fantastic. I love it. Your Book of Shadows is your little tiny recipe cards that you cook with, that you're always writing on, erasing, and fixing. So this is your working draft. And your grimoire is going to be great-grandma's recipe book that has never changed in 85 years. And the recipes that are in there are how they are, and there is no changing them. That's the difference. Your Book of Shadows is your working book, and your grimoire is your finalized page, your finalized book. Now, most witches work on these for their entire life. That's a lot of shit to cram into one book in the last, 4 or 5 years of your life. And plus, how the hell do you know when you're going to die? You can always buy pretty fancy leather-bound, wrapped books. You're more than welcome to do that. I would do that for your grimoire, not for your Book of Shadows. Your Book of Shadows is ever-growing, ever-changing, and you always need to make edits and change some things around in them. So, you can just go with a plain notebook. I went with a binder, a 3-ring binder. I have tabby tabs on the side for my Wheel of the Year, spells and sigils, my manifestation journal. What's that one? Oh, reading and learning, stuff that I want to read and learn, stuff about runes, essential oils and recipes for those, herbs and their uses, tarot tricks and tips, and crystals. A lot of my stuff is handwritten. Let me flip to a random page. Most of my stuff is written on line paper. Super, super fancy. And most all of it is written in pencil. You know why? Because I make mistakes. As does everybody else. But that can always be on your altar because that's going to have your recipes and your layouts for any spell jars, rituals, or anything like that you want to do. Plus, this is going to have your, all of your knowledge. Anything you learn about your herbs is going to go in here. Anything you learn about crystals is going to go in here and things like that. We'll We will discuss Book of Shadows and grimoires in a later episode, but that's just something that you can have on your altar. Another thing, which I have some, but they're hidden because I'm not sure what to do with them just yet. If you work with animal bones, or you have an animal skull that you're connected with, that can also sit on your altar. Again, listen, witchcraft in and of itself is a very personal thing. It is a very close to you, close to your vibe thing. It's a very you do you situation. If you don't work with deities, don't have a deity statue. You don't work with your ancestors, don't throw your ancestors' pictures on your altar. That could really throw the mojo off, okay? So again, like and subscribe to know when our next video is coming out. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Feel free to hit me up on all of my social media, which is also in the description. And thanks for watching.